Okay, again, welcome everyone into the Knowledge Without Border first session. And today we'll be talking about very important topic, emergent design management. Why we want today to concentrate about this important topic? Uh, if I think you see with me for the several projects, when the project gets suffer, we can see that is the root cause. It's something is coming related to the design wise or a requirement wise, or maybe something related to the specifications or the codes. This is why into this type of environment, a challenging environment, which we having a COVID, a pandemic, and economic already crisis happening in different cities across all the globe, how we try to work and manage a better, successful design in order to have a very successful project outcome to achieve client requirement. Today, I will not covering aspects about creativity in the design or the design process. However, today, I will be covering a very important topic and factors impacting the design success. So today I will be covering 8 factors. So the first one is about project management, how to have a full managing the design phase through the project management tools, techniques. And the second factor I will talk about it today, it's about design integration. The third factor, I'll talk about agility and innovation. Another factor we'll talk about design sustainability. We will be covering also in very high level about the BIM, Building Information Modeling System, and LOD, the level of details of the models we develop and create. We will talk again today in this type of environment, and we are going in digitalizations and everything is now working on the cloud. What about the IP, intellectual property, and the ethics? We'll talk about how the impact of variation over the design. And then finally, we'll talk about some about the smart technologies, which it can be adapted in the design, which it can be reducing a lot of the risk. So today in the emergent design management, I will be concentrating into 8 factors, how to make our process of design management is more successful. So simply we are talking now about 4 important core shields: project management, risk management, lean management, agile management. But we cannot see that all it's happened into today organization without environment of a leadership and innovation. If the organization continue to behave as in a traditional way, the environmental factors, it will be impacting this organization very strongly today. It is a time of a change. It's a time to be evolve and adapt how I can compete into this certain type of market. If I start at the beginning, and if I talk about what is the definition of architecture design? It's an art. So we call all the time the architecture, they are artists. Yes, it is by nature, they are artists. We know the issues all the time between architecture and civil engineers all the time. It's like architecture, they say, is we are the artist guys, we are the one doing the things in very nice way. And civil engineers and MEPs, they say, but we are the people, we construct it. And we have all this type of fight. But if we get back a bit step, and we try to think, what is the definition of architecture? It's art of a science of designing a process and the product for planning, designing, and constructing building or any type of other physical structure. So if we talk on the other side about what is the definition of the engineering design? Engineering design, it's about the process, how to develop a system component or a process to meet the desired needs. And when we talk about here, however, it's an art or it's a process, all of us, we work together in order to meet a client requirement. But if we have this type of understanding of this type of definition, then what is the most reasons causing failures in the design? I list a group of the reasons here, and maybe you can add a lot of reasons is causing also designs to be failed. First reason can be, we think about it, incorrect or overextended of assumptions. Adding a lot of what-if scenarios, which is we are a lot of time overloading the design over the client requirement. In another time, it's about poor understanding of the problem is to be solved, what I want to achieve, what is the project objective, why this project has been assigned for this design office. Another factor is incorrect design specification. And a lot of time, and through my review for an audit for a lot of projects, this is one of the most common factors causing projects to delay and causing projects to fail. As if the design is not follows a proper specification, we tend to see issues is happening in the life cycle of the product. Maybe also another failure because of the faulty of manufacture and assembly, error in the design calculation. How many times, if we talk about the MEP design, how many times you are happy with the cooling inside the buildings? Yes, I know you can tell me easily that it's the end user can be different and his character is different. So someone he wants cold, someone he wanted in more normal temperature. But it's not that the issue we are talking about here. But here we are talking about, for instance, about what did you have a right load calculation? Is the equipment and manufacture and the ductwork is that has been done correctly? If I'm talking about the design, is this design is more functional, and can the structure engineer can already have design analysis and he can perform it? Another factor is causing design to fail is incomplete experimentation and inadequate data collection. So if we talk about sustainability and energy efficiency, and if we talk about which type of technology and which type of solar and batteries, it will be used in this already building or a villa or a house or a hospital or a mall. Did I have performed the right analysis to bring the right outcome is the client is looking for? Error in drawings, and I think you agree with me also into this already one of the most common factors, which is we have a lot of times there is errors into the design and the drawings. Errors sometimes in the structure, in the electrical, in the mechanical, in the firefighting. And a lot of time it's so much costly. Why? We get to find it at the site. Then the cost of the change is very expensive. Another factor causing designs to fail is faulty reasoning from good assumption. One again of the most common causes of design failures is failure to understand client requirement. And really that is one of the most important things is, did really we had been collect the client requirement, all stakeholder requirement? If you are doing a development in a mall, did you identify really the stakeholder and identify all the requirement from the client and the stakeholder as well? Poor application of project management. all the time we tend to think that project management is belong to construction, and we don't apply the tools, technique, processes of project management over the design phase. Now, when I'm talking here about the design, I'm talking about maybe you are a design office, maybe you are a consultant doing only a design for engineering, architecture, or maybe you are an office, which is you are doing MEP design, or maybe you are having a project today for design and build. So when I'm talking today about the design and the causes failure for the design, you have to think about it, all these type of factors, whatever the project you are handling. If you are a consultant or if you are a contractor and you are managing in a design and build environment. Incompetent team. Again, one of the most factors which is causing a lot of time to rework is the team is working behind the design as well. The team is collecting the requirement from the client. If their expertise, their knowledge is not competent to collect correctly the requirement from the client, you will find yourself in a design phase. Instead, if it should be finished in a 1 month, you are taking around 1 year. And here a question maybe if I ask it to all of you, how many times you had been schedule a design phase for certain period or a duration, and how many times you succeeded to complete the full design in this certain period. If we look for the past projects you had been managed or in the industry as all, we'll find is the majority is we have an issue in the duration of the design phase. Wrong adaptation of project life cycle. Again, it's like, are we using in the design is waterfall? So if I ask you, I want as a design office to design for me my house. Then you say, okay, yeah, I know it. That is so easy. I can already do the design for you. Is that really simple? So we are using the predictive life cycle. We call it the waterfall. Or it's a better to use another life cycle. We'll talk about it in the next slides. Failure in the design, audit, and control. Design phase as any phase in the construction of the product. What it means, the design is need an audit and control. A lot of time, if you had been adapted control process over the design and you audit it, you will be eliminate a lot of the errors and you will be reduced down the risk can be triggered over the projects. This is just common factors into causing designs to be failed. Now, if I move a bit forward, and this is a framework, it's a great framework coming from the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, talking about the different stages of the design, starting from the strategic definitions, going for preparation and briefing, concept design, spatial coordinations, technical design, manufacturing and construction, handover and use. And it is a very great way to divide your process over the design from the beginning of the project till the use. So which is it going into maintenance and facility management. So if you look about from the stage outcome, in the beginning, if you start with a stage 0, which is a strategic definition, here you are trying to understand what is the client requirement. And if you understand really the client requirement correctly, you can define what is the project objectives. And that definitely will be impacting how you can hand over the project successfully at the end of the project, after 3 years, 2 years of a project, achieving the client requirement. Now, in the next stage, which is stage 1, is preparation and briefing. And here, starting in the design office, start preparing is the design brief and starting having a bit of start of the concept. So starting from moving from preparation to preparing a concept. And when you start having architecture concept over the design, you start looking again for what is the client requirement, what is the objectives of the client over this project. Then you're moving to spatial coordination. And here we are talking about, you cannot only just think about architecture design, but you need to do engineering analysis, which is you need to look for the other discipline. So it means I need to work with the structural engineers, electrical, mechanical, in order to be my design as architecture can be something happen. Now, if you see here in this process and the process after, the stage after, which is the technical design, it will be all the time having going forward, going backward. Why? It's have a discussions until all the team agree in a certain design can be achieved, can happen, can be smart, client be satisfied with, and achieve project objective. If we finish all this stage, we are moving for stage 5, which is manufacturing and construction. And when we talk about manufacturing and construction, we are talking here is the design had been done for the tender. We have a detailed design. We have already, everything is very clear. We have been submit tenders. We receive the tenders. We evaluate it and we award the contractor. So in here, it's a stage of execution of the approved earlier design. And that is, it takes a bit, again, a longer stage. And in some time when we are not managing the design phase and we can find some of the project, the design phase, it can be take maybe a 1 year or 1 year and a half until all parties agreed and all stakeholders agreed. And then they ask the contractor in the execution to finish in 6 months. I think now you understand where is the issue. Why we had been spent a long time over the design, and when we reach to the execution and construction, we are asking for acceleration. And from here, we can find a lot of errors, a lot of risk triggers over the project can cause it. It's not to be successful. Moving forward for the stage 6. And in stage 6, it's happening here the handover. So this is, we call it is the initial handover and issuing the DLP, defect liability period certificate. It can be for 1 year, or it can be for 2 years, or as per the agreement between you and the client. But when we reach to the end of the defect liability period, then we reach for a stage 7, which is a product now is under use. So here starting the maintenance, a preventive maintenance, and then we have already facility management is working over the assets to try to achieve the client project objectives. Here in the use, it will be the measuring the success of the design. The success of the design, notice that only can be executed, but the most important, when it's go in use, which we call it is fit for use, did this design and the execution has been achieved the client requirement? So the return of investment is starting from this point. And now from here, we can see, again, from the industry, there is a lot of projects. Has been spent a lot of budgets, but when we go in evaluation in the market, we give it a very low evaluation. Then you can ask me, Magid, how come? We spent over this project is 120 million. How come you give evaluation of this product today when it's in use 40 million? This is coming because of issues in the design, issues in the specification, delay in the decision making, variations, changes, stop times in the project that can be causing that in the use stage, we are not able to achieve the client objectives and the return of investment. Now, if you look for the core task at every single stage, you're starting from the beginning at the stage 0, having the client requirement, going in the preparation, having already started the brief, having the what is the project objectives, what is the budget, what type of system we can use, which resources, which we call it is the planning. Then you go to the concept stage here, starting to have a concept design, and then you are looking for how you will be managing the changes. And you go for the spatial coordination, which is you are looking here of how the interaction between the other discipline and the architecture. Moving to the final drawings. And is these final drawings as the full design for the product meet authorities and requirement by the authorities? Again, another one of the most failures I see in a lot of projects causing the design to fail. A lot of designers, once they get awarded a project, they start doing the design, ignoring what is the authority's requirement. Not going to the site to inspect. And that is causing a lot of changes in the design. Some project I see there is 15 versions of the architecture drawings, 20 versions of the civil and structure drawings, 30 versions of MEP drawings. And why that is all happening? That is all impacting our success and also the client success. Then if you go after that for core statutory process is you need to identify as you are in the beginning, as you are in the preparation, in the planning, which authorities I need to understand from them their requirement before the client approves the design finally. You tell me, really, I can do any design? Yes, and that's true. Architecture, design, it's open for innovation and creativity. But in the same time, every authority have a requirement. It have a specification. If you ignore this requirement and specification, your design, your drawings, it will get rejected. Then you have to correct it. It's one of the most impacted causes of project failure, not understanding what is the authority's requirement. Then if we go for the down is which type of procurement you will sign with the different parties and different stakeholders. So if I'm a design office, if I'm engineering architecture, do I will sign a design contract or design supervise, or maybe the client, he will go for a contractor to sign design and build. Now, in all scenarios, in all cases, you will need all the time the client input and client requirement. You need really to try to structure the design process from stage 0 to stage 7. And you can see here in this diagram, you're starting with strategic definitions, and then you have the preparation and the brief. And you can see here we have a lot of feedback and target to understand, as also understand the client requirement and what is the authority's requirement, what is the legal requirement over the design. So this is a process is continuous until I continue to improve my design until I reach to acceptable design concept following authorities' requirement and meeting client objectives. If that has happened, then I move to developing the design. In the developing design, I'm looking from the different aspect: firefighting, mechanical, HVAC, electrical design, CCTVs, telecommunications, all structure, every single type of design. I look for traffic management, I'm looking for the landscaping, every single design. This is why we talk about design process. This is why we talk about emergent design management. Because people in a very small logic, they think that when we talk about the design, it's just we talk about the art, the architecture only. But I'm talking about a full set of different detailed designs impacting together overall the project success. Now I move to the technical design, and here, and as I'm starting doing the technical design, which is the detailed design, we're starting here looking for the performance, and I'm meeting the client requirement, authority requirement, I'm meeting that also as well, yes or no. Moving to the construction, and when we started doing already constructing or manufacturing the product, then here I'm talking about the energy performance gap. Then I move to the handover, and in the handover we talk about, we have two stages: the initial handover with the DLP, the defect liability period, and the final handover after the end of the DLP period. And as I mentioned, in use, that is very important already stage, because in this stage, when totally the product handed over to the client, he will start see the outcomes, the return of investment for him. But if I'm trying to cover that all in a different stages as per the RIBA, that cannot be happen separately, successfully, without applying a project management over the design phase and all the project as well. So we talk about here, let's say if you adapt the stages of the RIBA, like the design process, and you can start from a concept, reaching to the detailed design, phases. You can have the phases of the design as you can start with architecture phase, then you can have structures and MEP phases, or you can take them all integrated together. Project management, how you will manage the design phase to have a successful detailed design to the client, can be moved forward for the next phase, which is construction, execution, manufacturing. The life cycle you choose, is that is waterfall or another different life cycles. Design scope, what you will perform in the design so the client get to know, so you can meet his expectation from the beginning, what I will do and what I will not do, collecting a proper requirement from the client. Design cost, how you will manage the fees. If I'm talking about design and build project, how you will manage the design fees over the different phases and different already stage gates over the projects. Maybe you will be dividing that into a certain percentage over every stage, so you can retrieve your design cost. Thinking about design cost, did you think about the cost and relation with your resources? Which architect, which structural engineer, which electrical engineer, which mechanical engineer will perform the work? How much is it cost? How many hours working over this project? Did you manage the resources at your company in a very well way that you can have a profit over the design? A lot of organizations, they are not performing project management over the design phase. So it looks that they have a percentage over the design, over the project, can be reaching from as a standard or a norm, we call it from 2% to design and supervision for 4%. Sure, that can be, again, have a variance. It can be higher, can be a lesser. It depends on the complexity of the structure or the design you will be performing. But when I'm here thinking as internally, as organization, with my resources, with the capabilities of the resources I have, how much does it cost me to develop this design? Now, paying the salaries, paying the overheads, direct, indirect cost for design offices. Are you getting a profit at the end? Do you think that with this type of different resources, you allocate over the design in the project and with the different skills and capabilities for these design resources, do you get the profit over a design project? You need to manage that very well in order to have a great estimation over the design cost. Schedule. Do you perform a WBS, work breakdown structure, and schedule activities? It's not for the construction, but for the design phase. That is very needed. That's very important. It is an essential. It's not only to schedule activities for the design work, but also to allocate the resources, load the resources over the activities of the design, adding the cost of the resources, and now you will get to know how much my selling price and what is my profit over this project. And that is can maybe in some times is make you to change your decision over the resources. Why? Because maybe the complexity of the design is not high complexity. The risk of the design is not high risk. The uncertainty is a lower. Then why I'm assigning the highest capabilities, resources, skills over the design phase, which it can be cause me I lose over the project. Design risk. Do you perform a risk assessment over the design? You start looking for the design after you do the concept, then you think about how can be impacting the environment, the external, the neighborhood, risk assessment for the users of these already structures, risk assessment toward your design, if I'm talking about architecture or I'm talking about the structures, safety, or I'm talking about mechanical or HVAC or ducts work or electrical and fires. You need to be very strongly perform a strong risk assessment over your design. Design quality. And when we talk about the design quality, you need really to think about it from the perspective, is this design meeting the client requirement, number one. Number two, achieving project outcome. And number three, can bring the investment, return of the investment to the client. And number four, is that meet the authority and statutory requirement, meet the authority's requirement for the approvals. And finally, if you design a project and finish in 1 year, and we are talking about the age of a structure can be from 40 to 50 years, can your design be sustainable, can be competing after 10 years? Or this structure will be looks from the design concept till the technologies used in these already structures is very old and not competing into the environment. Understanding the procurement, you will be signing is lump sum contract, we call it as firm fixed price contract, or cost plus, as we mentioned, is design only, design and supervision, or design and build. Now, remember, in every single type of procurement, it's have a risk over the design, specification, and liabilities. You need to be smart choosing which type of contract meeting client requirement and sharing the risk. We know sometimes a client, you will say, I don't want to take the risk. We call it is risk averse. And usually, if we have a client developers into this type of position, you will find them is they are more tend to go to design and build the projects, which we know it's a more costly project more than if the client position to take a partial of the risk. Then the tender and the total project cost, it will be go a lower stage. Now, this is here, it's just a quickly framework of the project management. It's one of the best frameworks you can apply and implement under the Project Management Institute over all the design phase. Now, I'm talking here if you are engineering design office, so you can apply that all over the design phase, or design and supervision as engineering office, or if you are a main contractor and you are having a design and build. This is something it has been studied, has been implemented, and it has been showing how much consistency in following a processes in order to meet the project outcome. Now, let me talk about second factors can be impacting the design to have a successful outcome. Now, the second factor I will talk about is the design integration. And when we talk about design integration, you have to know integration, it is the first step of innovation. So there is integration, which is lead for innovation. When I say I integrate, so I'm looking from different perspective. I take the view of others. I look for the all requirement from different perspective. And that will cause you all the time to innovate. And how to innovate, it starts with design thinking. And when we talk about the design thinking, it starts with ideate, sharing ideas. So integration is very important in the design. We need to be integrate the client requirement as well economical requirement. What is the market condition now? What is the return of investment? Which type of technology is available? Which type of specification we can use or materials? Looking for the product requirement. How I can sustain this product for 40 or 50 years. Now remember, design decision impacting the life age of the product. Design specifications and choosing a method of a statement is impacting the life cycle of the asset as well. So it's not only I'm talking here about construction or maybe poor workmanship at the site or in the execution, but I'm talking about it is from the beginning, from the early stages, which is I'm talking about it here is about from the design stage. Technology requirement, which type of chillers I will use, which type of recycle for the solar systems in the building I will use, which type of solars I will use, which type of BIM technology I will use. So the technology, do I use 3D printing? And we'll talk about a group of different technologies today. Other discipline requirement. So in my past 20 years of experience, I meet with everyone, architect, civil, electrical, mechanical, name it, from all different disciplines. And we find that, as I mentioned earlier, all the time that the architect, he don't want to interfere from the civil structure or MEP in his design. But when we talk about design integration, I need all the team to come in one room, sitting down, working together to have a successful integration for the design. So I need the artist, which is an architect, to give me a nice design, nice concept, with ideas of the structure is make it more can be achieved with understanding how the duct work it will work, the HVAC and electrical work it will done, firefighting work will done. That will give you a better outcome of the design. A lot of time, and I think you agree with me, you can see it if you go and visit some offices, some malls, some hospitals. You see a nice design from outside. When you go inside, you see something is wrong allocated in the design. and you say it's like, that is not should be happen like that way. Why it's done? And that is simply because there is no integration over the different discipline and the requirement over in the design stage. I need a full integration over the team of the design. And when I talk about the team of the design is consist of all different disciplines is to working together. Statutory requirement. And as I mentioned, it's like just recently I had been requested to be auditing a project. It's a high-level project, and the project is supposed to be finished into 3 months. It takes now 15 months. In the design, it's they use, we call it is a defect repair theory. What it means? They don't have a clue at all about what is the authority requirement. So they do nice design, they submit, they get rejected. Then they put them comment. They do the comment, they do another design for, let's say, the mechanical work, and they submit it, it gets rejected. So they don't have aware about the authority's requirement, what is the published standard requirement specification over the design in different discipline, and they get to know it by what? When it's the drawing get rejected, we'll get to know what is wrong, and then will be corrected. You can see here, this is not what we talk about in integration. What we talk about it here in integration is innovation. And to be innovative, it means you need to be a proactive. If you want to be a proactive, it means I need to bring all the requirement together, think about it, think outside of the box from the beginning in order to achieve a design success. Now, when you're thinking about the integration, you need to think about from different factors also as well. Technological factors like knowledge management, computational powers, capabilities, global communication. From cultural perspective, education, social networking, culture shifts, social pressures, socioeconomics. When you think about it from socioeconomics, you talk about the global economy, growing population, shifting demographics, new markets, legals, and regulatory. But not only that, when you are managing all the requirements in the integration phase, however you are managing a project or a program, which is a group of related projects, or a portfolio, which is a massive urban planning for a city or a massive project like the Expo, something it's have a group of projects, programs. So something like that, you need to have in the planning process is a very clear processes about how you collect the requirement, how you analyze it. Starting with requirement, needs assessment, why this project, why this program, why this portfolio, why the investment is needed, what would be bring return of investment, what is the business case behind it, moving to the requirement planning, to requirement elicitation, analysis, and evaluation, looking for the solutions, what type of solutions we are talking about it to meet this type of requirement. And that's happening from the initiation till execution till closing. And you need to be monitor and control all the agreed upon requirement from all the different disciplines, stakeholders, end users, authorities, in order to ensure that you meet this type of requirement. Along of a project can be spanned from 2 to 3 years. Now I'll go for another factor, which I talk about it today. It's about the agility and innovation. I mentioned earlier a question, which type of a project life cycle you adapt in the design stage? From my experience, which I see a lot of companies, a lot of organizations in the field and in the industry, they are adapting the predictive, the water life cycle. We know the requirement, we know the design, it will take this amount of time and it will cost like that. But the question on which is I ask you against this statement, how many times when you have a predictive life cycle with a certain duration and a cost, how many times you have been completed successfully and how many times has been extended because of the changes, variation, getting back to collect requirement, and trying to having something better for the client. We recommend all the time in the design stage and in design phases is to be adapting the agile life cycle. It's called adaptive. You see, agile, it means a life cycle is driven by change. So it is adaptive, change driven. And if you have a life cycle is the symptoms and the criteria is a change driven, then agile, it will be the most successful life cycle to integrate all the requirements into a shorter life cycle and achieve what the client is need. But that is very well is connected also with the innovation. How to adapt, how to have the life cycles to be adaptive, looking for the client requirement, as well as we are in a COVID and a pandemic impacting across all the globe. How you can understand the environmental impact, supply chain impact of if you specify certain type of materials can cause your project to be delayed. Now, if you are not having the agile life cycle and you have a predictive life cycle, so the concept will finish, the design will finish, it will go for the tender, 3 contractors will submit the tender, then it will be get approved, one of them awarded. Now, once we start looking for these materials or equipment, now we start the stocking. Why? We cannot have them. Still now we can see some countries is closing down, opening, and still there is not 100% stability or certainty. But if I have the adaptive life cycle, the change-driven, the agile life cycle, this is all the 3 terminologies, it is the same name. Agile, adaptive, or a change-driven. Definitely this risk, it will never be triggered. Because simply I will be thinking from the beginning which type of materials, equipment, what is the availability, how I can meet this client requirement. So I can be more already going in different sprints in order to understand the requirement of the client, especially if you are meeting a client who don't understand really his requirement. And if I ask you that, how many times you face this type of clients? He give you some information, you create a design, you get back to him, and he changes his mind totally. Now, agile life cycle, it will be the best approach with this type of how to be change-driven, adaptive, have your team integrated with you, that will give you a more success. Now, why we are now thinking about agile and innovation? Because we need to have a design of the future. And today, when we talk about design of the future, it's not the traditional design we do or we tend to do in the past years. It's have a certain criteria. It's have a certain processes. But before we go for the design of the future, when we talk about design thinking and we talk about agility, so when we talk about agile, it means it's looking for how to lean in the design, so you how to increase your productivity, efficiency over the design stage, and that will definitely increase your profit in the project. How to use the Kanban, Kaizen, JIT, 5S, Agile, Scrum, and all different methodologies in the field of Lean and Kanban. Now, if you see with me in the right side, in the diagram, you see here how you are certain about the project. So if you are a low uncertainty or high uncertainty, that is from the technical degree of the uncertainty and up from the requirement. So look for the technical and requirement. Now, if you have low uncertainty from the technical and requirement, so it means you know it. Something like similar when you tell me it's like, Maggot, I need to build the skeleton of the structure. Yeah, I know it. Something I can call it is a waterfall. It's a predictive. It's very clear calculations. We can do it. So this we call it is a linear approach here. And this is you can adapt inside. In this life cycle is a predictive waterfall. But as you go in high uncertainty in the technical requirement and client requirement, you will see I start move to the adaptive, which is agile. And that you can see the level it's increased from complicated project to very high complex project. Agile is the best approach is to use when you have a lot of uncertainty. The client, you don't know what he wants. And because you don't know what he wants, it's simply you don't know which best technology or solution you can give. So it's uncertainty from two sides. Uncertainty from the client and uncertainty from you as a designer also as well. Now, if you see now in certain type of projects, you can find it is high uncertainty in the requirement and high uncertainty in the technical. This is called the chaos, which we call it is, this is the most fundamental high stress project. And you can see here in certain clients or developers, when it's reached in this type of level, they don't want to interfere in the design perspective, in the technology, in the solution, but what they will tell you, I'm looking to see the outcome. So what I want really, I want this power tower is to produce this certain energy per day. I want this cooling plant is to produce for me this certain cooling per day or energy efficiency per day. When it's reached high uncertainties, you'll find all the time the client is trying to step back and giving the full risk over to the designer or the contractor. But definitely the designer cannot take this type of risk. It's a huge risk. Then this is why you can find is a design and build contract, which is a main contractor. He will hire under him a group of designers from, can be from concept to structure to MEP, all type of designs, but under him. Why? Because the main contractor is taking the full risk towards the client. When you look about the design thinking, it's a start, and this is the first thing about innovation, and starting by defining where is the opportunity, what we want to achieve, or what is the problem. Then if I have all the team, design team, integratively coming with me to think about the project, we'll have a lot of ideas. We'll move from this phase to the evaluation phase, which best solution, best ideas is to continue. Then we can be creating a prototype for the best higher agreed idea has been analyzed. And depending on that, we start testing. And if it's showing successfully, then we go for implementation. And if you see with me here, this is as per the ISO 56001. So the ISO in relating to the innovation, which is you need today, we need to be implemented in our project. Challenges, development, and implement, and then that full. If I want to now to discuss your design success today, ability. To talk about it today, SDG goals, which all of us think better. But I'm talking specific measure. So that then I need to think about different aspects. So first aspect, I need to think about the design. Is the design sustainable? Now, if you tell me that I'm using green building materials, this is a very latest stage to be impacting and have a huge impact in the food carbon emission over a tower. It is about starting from thinking. It's about an idea. It's about the design. You need to start thinking, how is my design is sustainable? And when I talk about sustainability, I'm talking about different factors: functionality, quality, safety, materials, energy efficiency, water management, indoor air quality. This is the front of a group factors. You need to start to take it in consideration from the design stage and not in the execution or after the old existing building. We know it as if you are talking about LEED or if different green building rating systems, Stidama, in any countries that have different rating systems, that is just talking about outcome. But what is most concern for me is what really you do from the design perspective. Now, this is a group of very important factors you need really to consider when you're thinking about sustainability. But not only that, when I talk about sustainability, is the structure you develop, design, executed, used, is this structure sustainable in itself or no? You remember that when we talk about sustainability is thinking green. And what it means thinking green, I'm talking about people, I'm talking about a process, I'm talking about the planet and the society and the economy, and I'm talking about investment. So it is very important not only achieving from a technical perspective a good sustainability factors, but also you need to try to think how many jobs you have been created with this project. Is that a part of the sustainability? Yes. With this development of this structure, how much investment come to the city? Is that a part of the sustainability aspect? Yes. So really I encourage you into trying to think now for your projects you are doing or the project you will be starting, how you will measure sustainability. Technically, environmentally, and enhancing the quality of life. Now, if I'm talking about another factor is impacting already the design. BIM. I think you are very, all of you familiar with the BIM, which is a building information modeling system. But if I ask you the question, how much of details you have it over the BIM? Is the BIM is good technology to use? For sure. We know there is a softwares can be applying through the BIM like the Revit or like Bentley. Maybe also another software is coming now in the market. It doesn't matter for me the software or which type of technology we use. But what is most important for me is the model as itself. It is very essential nowadays as a part of the sustainability and thinking smartly and to be integrative, to innovate, is to have a drawing integration. And that only can be happen over BIM. That cannot be happen over any type of wall. If we have the traditional department, which is an architect, they do the design, we have a civil structure design department, we have MEP department, then the integration will not happen. Then we will see and witness the risk and the issues that will be happen only at the execution. But BIM is giving us as a tool is the ease of integrating all different drawing models in the design with the maximum details we have from LOD 100 to LOD of 600 which can be reaching for the furniture, interiors, fit out, moving to LOD 700, which for FM and maintenance. That is, you need to reintegrate from the beginning. So really you need to think about, if you talk about in the BIM and the models, if you talk about level 1, level 2, level 3, or 1D, 2D, 3D, this is all from approvals till execution. Can I apply a project management approach over my design over the BIM? Yes. Why? I can have a 4D for the scheduling, and 5D is for what? For the cost and estimation. What about the sustainability factors and energy? Yes, this is about the 7D. What about the facility management? Yes, that it can be happen also. So it means it's nowadays has become a necessity that I need to implement all my design drawings into a model, not only just to remove the clashes, not only just to reduce down the risk, but also it would be helpful for me after 20 years. If I need to replace a certain part over this product, I can open my model and I can see the part, the specs, the size, and I can replace it exactly. But remember something. This type of technology, it's like any type of technology. I will ask you a question. Now, usually we start in a design and we're having a lot of drawings changes. It's happening through all the life cycle of the project. One of the main requirements at the closing, at the handover, submit for me what? As-built drawing. Then you start calling all the contractors, subcontractors, guys, please prepare for me already all the as-built drawings. Now, usually in this process is usually the work is executed, but the drawing has not been updated. And then at the end, they try to update it. And a lot of time when I do a project audit and I look for the as-built drawings, around 80 or 90% is not matching the actual reality of the site. Why? It just looks like one of the requirements, your checklist. Yes, it's completed. We do it at the end of the work, which is not the right way. All the drawings should be already updated under the configuration management. Every variation, every change coming, or because of any request. Then simply at the end of the project and the handover, it is there already. I don't need to develop it. I don't need to prepare it. Now, it's the same thing here in the BIM. So if you have a great, nice design and model in the beginning, but you don't integrate all the changes as it's happening, then your BIM model of as-built, it will be totally different from the original model. And then again, we will not be having already the benefit behind already why we integrate the building information modeling system. Now, I will be talking about some of the technologies today. So we have a lot of today different technologies can be adapted in the design. So we talk about from design technology, VR, visual reality. So over the drawings, you can have these glasses, you can see how it looks, the design, and you can have it as a 3D. We have a technology of 3D concrete printing. Is that give me more flexibility in the design? Yeah, definitely, yeah. You can, if you have agile life cycle and the client, he make a change, let's say yesterday, yeah, you can implement it today. But if I'm doing a traditional way, and it can be take maybe more 5-6 months, I need to stop the maybe plant concrete factories is producing and a lot of materials. But if you are using a 3D concrete printing, then it's a good technology. It can be used to be adaptive as agile for a client requirement. Not only that, I think you see also sometimes some people posting nice small movie cartoons. It's like about the design. We have a nice design of a villa, and it's from the client requirement moving to the structural engineer to the MEP. At the end, the house from nice design has become a square, a box. So it's starting from something nicely to become a box at the end, which is non-sustainable. Now, with these two technologies, I can have this design happen. We can use today the drones, again, for if we have a pandemic and we can use the drones for quality assurance, quality control over the site, and that can be very helpful. Laser scanning for existing towers, we need to redesign or we need to restructure it using robotics in construction, solar technology. Now, when I talk about solar technology today, it's very important to understand that it's not only the solar, you keep it in the roof above the building. No, this is only one way, but also if you see also of all your glass panels, I can insert inside it already a solar panel. So it means all the glass over the building is absorbing energy. More than to just thinking about the roof of the structure, I will just keep already some solar panels. It's not only that, because now we have different taste. So now we can see in the solar panels, it can have a different colors, has been produced with different colors to match the different taste of client requirement and to be matching the design requirement as well. Today is a technology and already the material, it has been expanded to go with the evolving in the construction industry. Water management. Can we think about water recycling or some type of the water is coming from the tower? Can I use some of them for irrigations? Can I get it into filters and try to utilize it in a certain way? We know now, as we talk about it under all sustainable development goals, is that next challenge the world will face in the next years is the water. So it is a time to think from the design stage, which type of system I can use as a water management over my structures. Also is the use of AI. And when you talk about the artificial intelligence, actually, some of the designers, they start to be feeling afraid. It's like, is really the profession of architects will be there after 10 years, 15 years, or the computers, they can do the design? Remember one thing, whatever the challenge we face, we are managing the technology and not the technology managing us. But what is the most important? You need to be adaptive and not resistant for the technology you are using. As you get more competent, more adaptive, using the more highest technologies, then whenever time it's coming, all the time there'll be high demand in your capabilities. Now I'm touch base quickly into the last 2 points. Is the first one is about the IP and ethics. So the IP about the intellectual property. Now we are facing a big issue in the design. We can see, especially we talk about the architectural design, the exteriors. We can see a lot of towers is copy pasted, is in different cities, different countries, and maybe in the same country as itself. Not only that, as a copyright of the design, but also it's about the ethics. As architects, we shouldn't be copy and paste any other design, or we look for different nice, nice towers, and I take a piece from here and there, and I build my already design. We need to be authentic. We need to be having the creativity, innovation in our design concept, following a very good of ethics. And don't forget about the design liability. And when we talk about the design liability, I'm talking about it from architectural perspective. And you can think, you can hear now in the world, and as we now, everything has become digitalized. Everything has become now on the cloud. you can see what is happening now. That a lot of claims starting on, a lot of already raising cases about the IP from country against another country. These countries, they had been copying my design and executed the project. And I'm talking about mega projects. I'm not talking about small projects. I'm not just talking about a villa. I'm talking about a mega project. And that's happening now. So it's very important to understand the intellectual property and the code of ethics. You as designer, architect, civil, structure, electrical, whoever you are, you need to be authentic and you need to be original into your design. But not only that. Now, when we talk about the modeling and the BIM, I need to raise a quick awareness for you. Now, this model, it will start with from architecture, then maybe move to design office structure. So he receives the model. Now, he do changes, he adds the structure. It's moved to another maybe consultant or a contractor to work over the MAP. So the same model, it has been changed again. Now, at 2 points, maybe you need to be focused in as now, as we are working with a lot of digitalization and a lot of, we call it is models. It will be opened. You cannot close it. Then you need to think about the 2 points very important in the contract. Who have the full liability? Now, once the design has been moved from an office to another company to another organization, what happens if the final model, something has been manipulated in the architecture? How did you get to know it? Who will be responsible for that? What is the contract's terms, condition, clauses talking about the ownership of the model? Who have the ownership of the model? Is the architect? Is the structure? It is MEP? Is a fit out? Is a contractor? Now, you need to think starting now, as we are starting using this type of technologies, you need to get back to redefine this very important point about who is the ownership, who have the right to update, change over the model. Yeah, can the structure, he can make a change? Yes, he can. However, you need to inform the architect. He cannot implement the change immediately from himself. Can the MEP perform a change? Yes, but he have to get back to the architect and the structure. You have to inform them. Now, these type of issues are still not covered in the contract and can be causing a lot of risk for all the organization, can be causing failure in the execution. And now we will not know with the root cause analysis who is the responsible of this wrong. Who is the owner? Who is the liable of this model? So this is to understand the perspective of to be authentic, original in your design, in your concept, having a code of ethics, in the specification, as per your design, you don't already tolerate it. You have to follow the exact specification. It has been mentioned, the requirement, the codes it has been mentioned over the design, and also the liability and contractual already impact and risk. Finally, I'll go for the variations. What about the design variations? If I ask a lot of design offices or big contractors, you have a project of design and build, you'll find a lot of times that we have a lot of variations over the design. I want to get back to think with me. Now, when the variations happen, which life cycle we are working with? Predictive and defect repair, or agile and proactive? Mostly because of the increased number of the variation, it looks like we are working with predictive, which is new request come, let's change. New request come, let's change. And we are not into agile life cycle that we think about all of these requirements from the beginning and integrate it to the client to reduce down the number of variations. This is why you need to be think carefully about the RFP when you receive a request for tendering, request for proposal. You need to carefully screen out all the requirements. You have to look for your contract about the clauses is determining the design change, how many changes, how many variation can be accepted, the tolerance 10%, 25%, 2 design changes, 5 design changes. Looking for the full design review liability. Who have the full design review? And here again, I'm talking about integrative design. I'm not talking about only just architecture. Looking for the design risk impact because of the variations. In one project, there is a variation happened, and then all the drawing it has been revised. And that's all totally fine. And it has been executed. But when we had been handed over, this variation, it didn't has been studied well. Because now we have a lot of area, there is a waste of areas, and there is no optimization over the structure. Why? Because the change when it's come to the designer, he just make only the change in the area is required. He don't look for the full impact over the design. He didn't look forward about the maximum optimization, functionality, sustainability, agility, innovation. He don't adapt all these factors I talk about it today. Neither he have a very good, strong processes of design processes or a project management. It's just a change implemented. Then you go to hand over, then I will have certain questions. And I start asking the designer certain questions. So what will be the use of this area? What will be the use of this area? And he cannot answer me. He cannot reply me. Why? It is simply what's happening is a variation. It just has been executed as a variation, not looking for the full design review or the risk impact overall, the project and the objective of the project. The last point into your contract in the design, you need to look for, again, how you can raise a claim. Is the consultant, as a designer, can raise a claim? Yes, but again, you have to look for what is the clauses in the contract certifying you, enabling you, when you have a disruption from the client over a requirement, you can raise a claim. Not only that, but also about how if you reach, unfortunately, to a dispute as a design, how you can resolve the dispute. We can have a mediator, can have expert reviews, can we have arbitration? But you need to be carefully, again, looking for these factors in every single variation, a design change to be submitted to you, because that can be causing a risk, which can be causing extension of time of the project, causing you lose your profit over the design, and you're stuck in a project for a certain number of years with the resources, which can be impacting the total, your business value. But not only that, it will reach for that the client is not happy, not satisfied at the handover, and his return of investment, it will be taking a longer payback period, which it means no one will be happy at the end. And this is why I talk about you need to be more integrative, adapting agile life cycle, innovative, thinking about sustainability, thinking about the best technologies you will use, utilizing the BIM and the level of details of your drawing, about the details in the drawings. That can be a helpful under the full project management framework in the design stage, design phase. In this type of environment, to be have a smart design can fulfill the client requirement and objective successfully. With that, I complete already the first part of the session. I hope that you have already enjoyed the overall